Random and metronome, a further dive into what we call events in MuX. So I'm just going to spawn an oscillator and a multiplier and an add actually, and I'm going to switch these around. Okay, and now I'm going to put that in, and here you can hear. Okay, now just set that back down to 0 for now. What I'm going to do is, we saw with the buttons how you can immediately send values. So now I'm going to go into the yellow menu, and the yellow menu are most of the things that we use called events, sending a signal just one time. It's not continuous. Like these guys. These guys are just continuous. All of these components just flow from where they begin into the speaker. Okay, so I'm going to take a random component. Now, again, I just pull with the trigger that little half-shaped moon object and put it there. You can see it's there now. You can see it kind of move around. And now it's going to send whatever I set here. I'm going to give this 250. Every time I press this button now, it's going to send a random value between 0 and 250 to the oscillator. Okay? And let's hear that. I'm going to do the low-pass filter again because of the pops. So that's a low-pass filter. It's this symbol here on the blue menu. You can see it there in Eliza. Turn that off for now. So the random sends values in decimals. You can't, let's turn it back on actually. You can't see that. But when I go to when I set my incrementation to decimals, you will see it. And it will, so it's not just whole integers, okay? If I want that it just sends whole integers, I can take a floor component. And the floor is this little symbol here. You can see Eliza tells you. And I spawn the floor. And then I click this here. Here's an important thing. If you want to disconnect an event line, you take your controller and you hover it to where the event line comes from. So I'm hovering it here. And then it will highlight. You can see my thumb is on the pad. See, now I can rotate between this one or that one. I want to disconnect this one. So then, once it's highlighted, I just click it. So the random is now going to the floor, which will round it down so it's just whole integers. Now you can see when I click, you just have 0, 0, 0. So let's make that pretty and just keep it nice and simple there. And again, we'll just let you hear that. Okay. Now, let's say the human ear, it can't hear anything over 40 hertz, or most human ears can't. So right now it's sending random values between 0 and 250, but up until 40 we can't hear anything. So, and I think on your computers you might not be able to hear anything, or your iPhones or whatever, you might not be able to hear anything below 60. So I'm going to take another event component called an add. Okay, and I'm going to add 60. And that way we can make sure that we hear everything. Okay, so the floor comes out, it sends the random value, and then I'm going to disconnect it again. Again, I hold it in there, my thumb is on the touchpad, and when the event line highlights, you just click the touchpad and it goes away. So I'm going to take that, I'm going to put it here, okay, and now it's going to add 60 to whatever comes out. Now it will be between 60 and 310, but if we really wanted to keep it to 250, we'd just subtract 60 from here, put it to 190, okay, 190, and then we connect that here. And now you'll see that the value will always be greater than 60. I'm clicking that button, and if you find that button annoying to push, you can always just take another button and stick it there, and then you can do it with this one then. Okay? Now, you can see here, another important thing is you have two places to connect this event line. I can connect it here, and I can also connect it there. Okay? See? On this object, this spring-shaped object in the back, this coil, this mortal coil. So I'm going to disconnect it now and tell you what the difference is between those. When I connect an event line to a small yellow button like that, it's going to give the value that I place there. So now it says 190. If I connect it to this coil-shaped object, it's going to take whatever value I'm sending. In this case, it would take 0, which we don't want. We don't want to choose a random value between 0 and 0. So I'm going to connect it to this. We call this a hot input and a cold input. Okay? So we've seen now, just doing this by hitting a button to a button through a floor, adding 60. Okay? So what if I don't want to hit that button all the time? Then I can get a metronome. Eliza says there what the metronome does. Now I'm going to connect the metronome instead of, I can leave the button there. Okay, now the metronome is going to produce a pulse. It's going to send a value to the random. It's going to say 1 time a second, I want you to spit out a number. And there you can see it's doing it. I'm not touching anything. Okay, let's hear what that sounds like. And then I can make it go faster if I want. Okay, and I can increase the value here. Okay. Put these so you can kind of see them all in a row. This one's not really needed anymore, but we'll keep it there. Okay. And now you can I can do, for example, I can take an oscillator, and if you remember in earlier tutorials we modulated one oscillator's frequency with another. I can do that now. Let's hear how that sounds. Turn the multiplier back up. Okay. Let's do it instead with a multiplier. I think it was going to be more interesting. So maybe I would want to randomize this too. And then I could just take a random function again, and let's say I set this to 3 or 5 or 6 or 7, okay? And I put, again, trigger to the back of the oscillator, and then I just connect the metronome right to the button again. And now it's randomizing that too. It's doing it to the same tempo as it's altering this frequency. If I wanted it to do it to a different tempo, I could just get another metronome and hook them up.